for a DAP maker, DAP manufacturer, audio player maker, rather than IM maker. Because honestly, I have tried some of their products, and yeah, honestly, almost none of their IMs really good for me. It's just the last time the JD5 was quite good. But actually, I think that nowadays there are a lot of better brands out there that defeat Fios in terms of better sound quality in the IM world. But this time, I got some of their latest cheap IMs. First of all, thank you for Intium Indonesia for providing me with this review unit. Let's see what we got here. First of all, I got the $15 Fiio JD3. Oh, they look awesome, aren't they? Just take a look at them. Whoa, they really looks good. Yeah, they are non-detachable, but honestly, yeah, they looks good. And also the Fiio Jh3. And yeah, they just look okay. It reminds me of the original FD1 actually. And just like usual, I will break down this review from the build, fit, frequency response, sound, and comparison. First of all, let's take a look at the cheaper one here. This is the Fiio JD3. As you can see, it looks beautiful. I really like about what they have done with this fan hole around this part. And yeah, they are non-detachable here, as you can see, and they are said to be made of stainless steel, and yeah, they look really awesome. I do think that they are truly made of good material here, so I don't feel there's some they do feels like a high quality product aside from its undetachable cable. But even the nozzle part, it looks great here. So yeah, for me, for $15, it just looks quite nice. You got the mic cable here. It's on the right side, and the cable itself is surprisingly quite flexible, and I do like it. It feels like it has a smooth texture on it. But on the other side, it's quite mind-boggling for me because the other one, the JH3, that actually costs around $47. So it's 3 times the price of the JD3. But in my hand, for me, yeah, you might see that they look fine, they look just fine, but personally for me, they look kind of rough. They looks and feels cheaper than the JD3. Starting from the build of the housing itself, it is mostly made of plastic and it's translucent, so you can see the dynamic part around this, but it's really similar to the KZ IMs that cost around $10 or $20 only. And the faceplate is like this. Yeah, I don't know, for me it's really cheap looking. And also the thing that I really don't like is about the cable, especially around the pin connector here. As you can see that there are some rough edges, there are some like unfinished plastic build here. It's not really good in cutting, so there are some actually sharp edges that I find from the cable itself, not by the IM itself. The IM itself is pretty smooth, but when you touch the cable, the pin side, I find there are some something protruding from here and there that cause a little bit of piercing in my hand. And the cable itself is also somehow, for me, it feels cheap. Actually do feels that the JD3 has better flexibility and more prone to tangle, while this JH3, it is somehow more springy and not as flexible as the JD3. So yeah, strangely, when it comes to build quality alone, I will say that the JD3 for me looks and feels better. And about the ergonomics, I also could say the same. About this JD3, even though it only costs around $15, for me it looks really good, and it does feels good. Yeah, I have no problem with using them. They just your typical bullet shape IM. I believe that it will suit a lot of ears. But in the JH3, yes, as you can see, it might be simply looks like some normal IMs, normal over-ear IMs. But when I'm using them, the thing is, I find some sharp edges touching my ear because of the pins around this part. Yeah, this pin, so when it's touching my ears, I do feel there's a rough side on it. So Actually, I do prefer the ergonomics on the JD3 better than the JD3. Also, the cable itself, like I said before, it's quite springy. It doesn't feel like a high quality cable. Now, let's talk about the frequency response. And just like usual, actually you could search my own frequency response measurement in the aftersound.squig.link, and let's take a look from the JD3 itself. Comparing them with the IF neutral, you can see that it simply could be called a V-shaped kind of IM because it has big bass, big elevation in the area of mid bass to the sub bass elevation, and then the mid range is mostly quite balanced actually, but it's lacking some of the mid range for me here, and there's also treble peaks around this part, but after that it's mostly rolled off. So yeah, it simply could be called a V-shaped IM for me. Now let's take a look at the JH3. And just like the JD3, I could simply say that they are somehow a V-shaped IM. It is even more clear in here that they have, yes, I know the channel matching isn't really good, but you could see that the JH3 has also elevation in the mid bass to sub bass area, while the mid range itself is a little bit recessed compared to the bass and the treble. As you can see that there's some peaks around the treble around this part, and it's mostly on the mid to high treble area. So they are simply could be said V-shaped IMs, but the JD3 is more rolled off in the treble area. Now let's get to the sound. For me, they are both quite easy to drive, so it's quite easy to drive even though you're using only your phone. Starting from the JD3, I would say that it is simply at $15. We're talking about $15 price point. For me, the JD3, it is simply another regular V-shaped sounding IM. Honestly, I don't find anything really good about the tonality from the bass, mid to treble. It's just another type of the regular chi-fi typical V-shape. It has this kind of bloated bass sometimes. The mid bass is quite thick. Yeah, I know that some bass head might like this kind of sound signature, but personally for me it's lacking control and it's lacking depth and also lacking speed. It's just a bloated big mid bass. And then going to the mid range area, it's a thin leaning sounding mid range. So if you like a male vocal, you will not like it here because it sounds somehow quite thin and a little bit aggressive sometimes, and it simply doesn't sound natural for my ears. For female or more male vocal, it doesn't sound natural for me in this JD3. And also the instrumental sometimes feels kind of thin and also not really natural. So again, I don't really find anything really noteworthy about the tonality of this IM. The timbre is strange, the tonal balance is mostly the typical chi-fi kind of IMs, and the treble, even it has peaks around 6K, but after that it's mostly rolled off. So in some songs I could hear some aggressive treble. It could be a little bit more aggressive in some songs, like when I'm hearing tss or ch, or maybe some S pronunciation from the vocalist. I feel that I could hear the treble pick here, but after the treble picks, I don't really hear any extension above the treble picks. So yeah, frankly speaking, I would say that I hate this. It's just the bass is bloated, mid-range is kind of thin, and the treble is not extended but sometimes peaky. It's just a typical bad kind of V-shape. So yeah, so I'm sorry Vio, but this is, it just, I know it looks good, I know it looks really cool, but the tonality, it just feels wrong for me. Any kind of song I throw at them, I just feel, I don't find, sorry, I'm sorry, but I really couldn't find anything really good about this IM regarding the tonality. Also the soundstage itself, the soundstage imaging, and mostly about that technical part, I cannot feel anything noteworthy from this IM. It's kind of blur in imaging. I don't feel any resolution. But again, maybe you should say that, hey man, that's only $15. But let me tell you, At $20, you could save a little bit more. You got $20 IM that are really good, just like the Moondrop 2. Or maybe if you want something more thicker sound like the Tangium Tanya, it definitely has much better tonality rather than this JD3. So I'm sorry, this JD3 does looks good, but for me it just sounds really bad. And now let's talk about the bigger brother, the JH3. Well, the JD3 is a one dynamic driver and two balancer mature hybrid driver IMs. And for me, they are surprisingly could be good for some people. Because let me tell you, sometimes in the hybrid driver IMs, you could definitely hear that there are some kind of pseudo separation thanks to the crossover, because of the dynamic driver is handling the bass, the other balancer mature is handling the mid range, and the other balancer mature is handling the higher frequency. So you could feel that there are three drivers working separately here, and that's exactly what I found in this JH3. It could be a good sensation for some people because it gives you that kind of separated feelings. But for me, the problem for this JH3 is mostly because of the coherence. If you are someone who are really critical about coherency and also timbre, for me, this IM is really sounds kind of separated. The bass, yeah, the bass is kind of thick, it does goes quite low, and the mid range is suddenly become kind of plasticky. It's sometimes, I'm not saying it's thin, but the timbre is definitely different from the bass. It is thinner, and yeah, I could say it's a little bit plasticky, and the treble is quite aggressive in some songs. So yeah, you could really feel that there are three kind of drivers working together, but not really in harmony. I know that this kind of sensation could give a little bit of wow effect from some, but if I'm truly being honest with you, it's just a really strange feeling for me. It feels separated in a really not good way. But yeah, if you like this kind of sound, it does have this kind of somehow a quite good V-shape sounding. I mean, you get that bass thickness, you get that bass punch, and the mid-range, I wouldn't say it's truly lean, and also the treble is not really, I know the treble is also really sparkly, but I don't think that it's really working in coherence. So it's just another V-shape that I know that gives a little bit of wow effect because of that separated feelings, but for me they just doesn't work in harmony. But I should say though, even though the tonality is a little bit for me a little bit incoherent, but the technical, I would say that it's good. You do feel that kind of separation, and you do feel that kind of soundstage and imaging. So yeah, when I'm playing some busy tracks, for example like orchestra, or when I'm playing some music that has a lot of elements in it, for me this this Fiio Jh3 could give you a good sense of separation and clarity for each of the instruments. And I'm being honest here, it's one of the best around $40. Yes, for me the imaging is even better than the AG Sound Hard Mirror, even though the detail level I would say that they are on the same level, but the imaging, also that separated feeling, so you could say that separation, I feel that it's better on the JH3. So surprisingly, even though I don't really like the tonality of it, I could see some people could like this kind of tonality. It's just simply a V shape with a separated feeling, a good bass punch, sometimes a little bit thin, leaning mid-range, and sparkly treble. But the technicality, I should say that the JH3 has good technical. Yeah, if you are not like me, I mean, I'm a very critical person about coherency and also timbre. For me, it's definitely not for me. But if you are not really critical about those kind of thing, but you are mostly seeing something, you want some kind of separated feeling, you want some kind of detail and also imaging, I would say that if you don't really care about coherency and timbre, this one might be for you, because you get that fun effect from that V-shapeness. but you also get a quite good technicality. So let me talk about some comparison here, like how is it compared to another maybe around 40 to 50 bucks IMs that I always said that is good around this price point, uh, like the HD Sound hard mirror. The hard mirror is maybe one of the easiest recommended IM for at this price point for 40 to 50 price point. But for me, the HD Sound hard mirror is simply a leaner sounding. It sounds kind of thinner. It has less bass and also sometimes more thin mid-range for me. But for me, the HD Sound hard mirror is still one of the most technical IM around this price point, but still being coherent, and also it has a little bit it's kind of good timbre. I wouldn't say it's the most natural timbre around its price point, but for me it is simply a better timbre rather than this JH3. So personally, I would say that even though it's leaner sounding, I would pick the HD Sound hard mirror. But yeah, if you like bass and you are fine with that hybrid drivers, for me, the JH3 is maybe for you who wants to try that kind of good imaging and separation. But I want to say again one more, like the KZ-AS16 Pro. I think it's around here. Okay, I forget where I put my KZ-AS16 Pro, but I should say I have tried to compare them. The KZ-AS16 Pro is also giving you this kind of multi-driver sensation, but it's somehow more coherent and also more harmony in working together. So personally, yeah, I know the JH3 and KZ-AS16 Pro has different kind of tonality. The KZ-AS16 Pro is more of a thick sounding IMs, while this JH3 is more of a brighter V-shaped kind of IM. But for me, in terms of timbre and coherency, if you want that kind of multi-driver sensation, I personally would pick the KZ-AS16 Pro rather than this JH3. But again, if you want this kind of a hybrid sensation, this JH3 gives you better sensation. So I think that's all I could say about these IM. Personally, for me, I'm sorry, but rather other than the build quality and also the good looks of the JD3, I couldn't find anything that is worth mentioning about the sound. It's just really not a really good IM for me. But the JH3 for me, it does has place in this market. It does has place. It does have a place for you who wants to try this kind of hybrid driver sensation and good imaging at its price point. Okay, so again, welcome to After Sound Review, and I have seen that some of you have said some question here. Let me see. Hello, Deru and yeah, you that one dynamic driver, guys. Personally, my two best IMs are the multi-driver Sony IRM9 and also the Sennheiser hybrid driver Fiasco. For me personally, if you are one who is really concerned about that, for me the KZ, yeah, it already tarnished its name because of that fake driver Fiasco. But if you are someone who only concerned to how they sound, I'm not gonna lie, I like some of the KZ IMs. I really like some of the KZ IMs. For example, like the single dynamic driver CCA CRA Plus, and also their recently KZ-AS16 Pro. I don't really care how many drivers that are actually working in the KZ-AS16 Pro, but the thing is, I like how they sound and I like how they perform and how they fit in my ears. Even if comparing with some of the IMs like the Fiio here, I personally prefer the KZ-AS16 Pro, even after that fake driver fiasco. Honestly, it doesn't matter what driver configuration KZ use. What matters is whether you like their sound or not. Yes, exactly, that's what I'm taking here. Thank you, Kawaii Koto. Siri, it feels scummy though. Yeah, it feels kind of suck. I mean, it feels kind of they fooled you. But yeah, after that for me, because I'm someone who is more concerned about sound quality, I don't really feel that I hate KZ or something like that. I still feel that they are really onto something good in some of their IMs. Hello, Chiku. Okay, I think that's all from the question here. I think that's all, and that's all I could say about these IMs. If you still have question after you're seeing this video, you can write in the comments below, and thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.